office, it's like end times are on greased wheels. It is absolutely just spiraling downward.
It is. There's no question it is. I've been on an interesting journey in my own life, but I hosted the most listened to secular talk show in Southwest Missouri in Springfield. I had higher ratings than Rush here. And I had done the research, and if people had gone to Barack Obama's website about 8 to 10 months before the actual election, he had PDF files hung on his website that if you went and read them, some of them 20, 30, 50 pages long, but it was obvious what this man was all about. It was obvious. He was a socialist, a progressive, a whatever, title of the day you want to hang on him. But it was obvious who and what he was. But most folks didn't take the time to go read them. And, of course, the mainstream media certainly wasn't going to report on them. So in no way am I scolding you at all. But the frustrating thing for me was all of that information was there, but people wouldn't go look. But, Holly, what strikes me is that people are desperate for hope. And I think that's why they bought into Barack Obama. They didn't bother, getting into the details of him. People were just desperate for hope. And I think that's a door that you and I have to be able to share the Lord with them. Some are going to listen, some aren't going to want to. But I think as times get more and more difficult, and it seems as if hope fades, I think we're going to have an incredible opportunity to share Christ with people.
A lot of the folks that thought they were going to get a free ride are sadly disappointed. They're saying that, look, we don't know who we're going to vote for, but we certainly know who we are not going to vote for. And Stan and I, listened to his speeches and thought, the American public is absolutely getting hoodwinked here. They think they're going to get new homes or new jobs or more benefits or better welfare, whatever their magic button was. But they're really disillusioned.
Mm-hmm.
They quartered, the whole Obama administration campaign election hoopla group there. They quartered the Hispanic vote, thinking they were going to get amnesty, for the illegal aliens in this country. They're still out there. Now they're angry because they haven't gotten that promise.
Sadly, though, there's no alternative.
Guys,
yeah, go ahead, Stan.
This, I'm not trying to pin this on the protocols of Zion, but someone has written some time back during the Russian Revolution period in Europe, has written a perfect model for what is happening to the earth today. And the one part that sticks out in my mind most these days, and what we're talking about here, is the political disenchantment of the masses. In this outline that was laid out by someone or some group of someone's about the way the world was heading and where it would end up, they said that toward the end of the nation states as we know it now, before the formation of a global government of some sort, that people would become so disenchanted with their leaders that they just wouldn't believe anything they said, and they would be crying out for someone that was a realist and would tell the truth and make the problems go away. And we're seeing that now. People are just so unhappy with their leadership, not just in this country, but all over the world. I mean, look at all the overthrown governments and the things that are in progress, like over in Damascus at the moment. People are unhappy. And this is just falling right into line with what they said. And, of course, the Bible does tell you in broader strokes that in the end days here that people will believe a lie and they will be deceived into supporting a one-world government of some sort, which will allegedly, solve all their problems and make life great for them. Peace, love, and harmony. But the opposite is going to happen. I just see that. I mean, we're looking at Obama, but he's just a local guy.
Yep.
We've got things like this happening all over the world.
Yes.
And it's just about to come unglued.
It is all over the world, and I think some nights lying in bed it can be a little scary, a little intimidating, a little overwhelming, and that's why it's so important for us to be in fellowship with other believers to encourage one another when those dark nights come, because when you look at it on the whole, it is unbelievably overwhelming. And then you look at what the United Nations is attempting to do, as far as pushing a Palestinian state on Israel. Israel isn't going to stand for what they're trying to do. They can't. If Hezbollah gets a foothold, and arguably, or Hamas rather, gets a foothold, and arguably they already have, they're not going to play peace, love, and Beatles music. I mean, they're going to be bomb after bomb, missile after missile, shell after shell falling on all of the major cities of Israel. I see us right on the edge of either the Psalm 83 or the Ezekiel 38 war, but it seems to me that within the next 18 months, we're going to be living Bible prophecy.
Yes, I'm watching this Damascus situation.
Mm-hmm.
The scripture on it is very small as far as it becoming a ruinous heap, but it is cast away from being a city, and it becomes a ruinous heap. Now, it doesn't say in that prophecy that someone will invade or bomb or destroy or burn Damascus. It just says it will become a ruinous heap. It will be cast out of the city. It won't be a city anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And I've often of late wondered if that might imply that it's not going to be some external force that destroys Damascus, but that they'll do it themselves.
Yeah.
I mean, what's happening now? The government is forcing in on all sides of it, Damascus, and it's shooting and arresting people who are protesting against the government. And we know that a lot of the weapons of mass destruction leaked over there from Iraq when Saddam was trying to unload them and look innocent. So there might be nuclear, there might be bio-warfare, but they're there in Damascus somewhere, we're pretty certain. And if that gets released by the revolutionaries or whatever you want to call the people standing up against their government there, then that could turn Damascus into a burned city or a dead city. And this is right on, as you say, we're right on the edge of prophecy just springing at us. And if Damascus does go down, and the blame cannot be clearly assigned to themselves, but to say someone outside the country, then all fingers will point at Israel.
Yes.
And say Israel did it somehow.
Yep.
And then Israel is going to have to stand up and defend itself. And then you could see, just as you were saying, about the confederation from the north, the Gog and Magog, the Ezekiel war. They will have to come down into the Middle East because of the defense treaties they have with Iran, and I guess with Syria.
Mm-hmm.
And, they're going to be forced to come down to honor it and also to sit on the oil supplies. But I don't see how people can read the news, read the prophecies, and not see that it is all coming true, just as prophesied thousands of years ago. But the good news, as you know, is the Lord is coming back to set
Amen.
Things straight. He's going to take his people under his wing, and we will be in a better place very soon, I'm sure, after the tribulation period is over.
Amen and amen. Stan and Holly Deyo are with us tonight. This is Crossing the World. Thank you very much for being with us. It is always a joy and honor when Stan and Holly are able to be with us. Stan, I got a question in the chat room for you here. Will your Gemstone Scrolls books tell me how to build some kind of zero-point energy device for my personal use, or where can I get plans for a working model to use for preparedness?
Well, no, the Gemstone Scrolls won't tell you how to build a free energy or, Moray-type device at this point in time. Those papers I'm writing, there's 3 of them. The first one's already published, and the second one, Gemstone 2, is in, I'm working on it now. I've just been delayed by business and other factors this year, but that one will talk about the nature of a large gravitational field that makes planets, makes galaxies and stuff, and collects all the matter together in the center to make what we normally call the gravitational field of a planet. It's a very weak field, but I explain that because it's important in understanding how other smaller items entering into the inner solar system, like a large comet or a small planet, a large asteroid, how these things can be a great distance from the Earth, let's say, and disturb Earth's orbit, not with the gravitational field of the core planet, but by causing ripples in the orbital fluid that moves the Earth around the Sun. So I'll be explaining that. Now, as far as finding a place to get a blueprint on how to build free energy. If I had one of those, I'd be doing it. I've got several things that I'm experimenting with here on a small scale, converting high voltage direct current from the atmosphere and a resonant transformer into charging batteries. And that's a long way from being safe or big enough to make large amounts of power available to a house, like the 30 to 36, kilowatt hours per day that you need to run a reasonable household with air conditioning. By the way, air conditioning is probably going to be fairly important in what's coming with the sun. Anyway, so the bad news is, look, I don't have, an answer for a do-it-yourself or buy-it-off-the-shelf type free energy device. However, we are working on it. There are a number of us across the planet that correspond with each other. Progress is being made, and it's one of those kind of things where we know that we won't make any money off of it, but we still have to get it working and make it safe so we don't hurt anybody and don't get shut down for telling people how to electrocute themselves, and that kind of silly nonsense.
Got it.
We are working on it.
Something that you and I talked about off the air, and to be faithful to folks who are hammering me even on the chat page right now, you and I seem to have a similar opinion on HAARP. You know a lot more about HAARP than I do. It's being blamed for everything from athlete's foot to people's state of mind. As best as you understand it, let's start with the basics, Stan. What is HAARP?
Well, HAARP is a kind of an electromagnetic broadcast array of antennas. And there are many HAARP stations across the planet now. Originally, there was only one or two, one at Riga in Russia and one up in Alaska for us. And then other nations started to work on it and to develop these high-voltage, high-frequency transmitting antenna arrays that would shoot energy from the surface of the Earth up into the ionosphere above the surface of the Earth. Now, this was first proposed over 112 years ago by a man named Nikola Tesla. And at the time I read his original work on this, this is going back 30, 40 years ago, and I thought, wow, wouldn't it be exciting if you could take a ground-based resonant transformer like Tesla was talking about and shoot the energy up into the ionosphere and ionize it and turn it on like a big neon light, and the whole upper atmosphere would just be light all the time. There wouldn't be any darkness, and crops could grow day and night, and wouldn't that be wonderful? But what I didn't think about was the side effects of playing with the ionosphere on that scale and what it would do to allowing or not allowing certain radiation to get through it after we charged it up like that. At HAARP, if it were owned and controlled by one country, only one, and there were no other HAARP sites except one, then you might think that we would have a chance of doing serious research into using it to precipitate rain where needed, to cause storms to move off course and not harm inland places. But that's not the case. HAARP is a technology that is all over the world now, and there's no coordination that says to every nation using it, look, you can't do anything with your HAARP system today because we're testing over here, and we don't want your input up in the atmosphere to interact with ours and create an unpredictable result. Sadly, because we don't have that, when everybody starts playing or seriously trying to affect weather, which they can do with these things, the results become just unpredictable and sometimes very, very calamitous. I don't blame every weather anomaly or flooding or drought on HAARP manipulation, because I just don't see that we have a coordinated effort, planet-wide, to do such a thing. And that's what it would take, everybody working together to have these kind of systems. I do see that the sun itself is going through some changes that are affecting Earth, making it warmer. I do see that we have, like that comet 11 over on the other side of the sun heading our way. It's going to pass between us and the sun around September, October this year. And I think from what I've been working on my second paper on gravity, that it's going to shake our orbit up a bit. And we don't need that now because the Earth itself is of its own development going through a series of changes inside of it. The core magnetic field that is created by the core planet of the planet spinning is starting to oscillate, to vibrate back and forth. The earthquakes that we're seeing are because the entire Earth's surface is starting to expand and pull apart. And it's done this before, but it seems to do it in discrete amounts. Like it might jump, a third of its size because the Earth was 25% smaller than it is now, but it might have jumped a third of its whole size over a period of months or years. And as it did, it made continents rip apart and form what we see on the Earth today. Now, if we're undergoing another one of those periodic changes as the planet ages, that could be affected by the solar upheavals, which are putting out coronal mass ejections and other particles that are actually changing particles chemistry-wise in the whole solar system. And with the comet Elenin, all these things added together have more effect on the weather and the geology that we're seeing happen around us than HAARP. So I don't want to be, blaming HAARP for,
sure.
Athletes or whatever. I mean, there are much bigger problems that are facing mankind, bigger than we can solve by ourselves.
Talk to me, if you would, about brown dwarfs and Planet X, and I'm hearing a lot about this, and you're one of the few people I trust to ask to get an honest answer, because I see all of this, Stan, but I don't know what to believe. Sort of walk us through what you see as far as, I believe there's this proposed theory that there's a brown dwarf that we can't see that's having a massive gravitational pull on us. There's this a Planet X that's headed into it's got a huge elliptical orbit that's about to come back close to Earth. Talk to us about these things. Are they legitimate? Are they just flights of fancy? What have you been able to determine about these things?
Well, brown dwarfs, they have enough mass to almost become a fission reaction star, but they don't have enough to become a fusion star, which is what we're getting out of our star more than anything. So they're small, but they're potent, and they have a strong gravitational field. They're also detectable with infrared telescopes, radio telescopes as well. I don't know that I've seen any evidence that we have a brown dwarf in our system, or in close anyway. There may be one the size of Jupiter, so way out in the Oort cloud, which is like 100,000 light years across. I mean, it's big, and that surrounds our whole system. There may be one out there that NASA's mentioned, but that's a long way out. I don't see that it would affect our gravitational field of the Earth, our orbit, or anything right now. But there are some things that are wandering around out there, and Comet Elenin may be one of them. There are a number of other, like over 1,000 items that are large enough to be meteors of great impact should they strike the Earth, and they are in near-Earth orbit postures. But none of them officially are going to come anywhere close for the next 20 or 30 years anyway. Well, a little bit less than that. One of them might. However, having said all that, with my discussion I started out with a while ago about the gravitational fields of the large masses like solar systems and galaxies and whatever, every planet, every moon, every star, every galaxy, all indicate a spin around the central axis. And the gravitational field of these things is measured by the gravitational attraction of all the atoms that you see in a galaxy or a star or whatever. But that is not the sum of all of the quote-unquote gravitational energy in the universe or in the system. There is a much weaker but organizing, spinning force around everything that has a gravitational constant. It's invisible to the naked eye, but it forms discrete wave patterns like a stone splashed in a pond. Those ripples. It forms ripples that are actually places where planets can orbit, or where stars can orbit around a central mass of a galaxy. They can only orbit comfortably in that place, or they'll rip apart and become debris. So every orbit of every planet we got here, plus about 6 that are empty, I could determine by one simple equation, which was a series equation for this splash ring coming out from the sun, and it forms all these orbits. Now that's going to be in the second paper, and I'm doing my best to get it finished. Excuse me, but and I'm going to put animations in there to make it simple, and try to steer away from heavy equations. First of all, because I'm getting old and I don't like to stretch my brain that much anymore. But secondly, because I want you to understand and see what I'm talking about. Because planets do not spin and make gravity; they are spun by the fluid of space. It's completely reversed to what we've all been thinking. Stars don't spin in space. Space spins the stars.
Wow.
Now, this is a new Copernican revolution of thought about cosmology. That's why it's been so difficult for me to get this paper finished, is trying to make it clear and answer the questions that are going to come up from it. That tells us that things that are small mass can be in a ripple, a ring orbit that's kind of stretched like an egg and lifted.
Sure.
And that can affect our orbit, which affects Earth, even though it may not even come close to us. And that then allows a lot of things to do stuff to the Earth. Yeah.
I mean, I don't have the background you have, but intuitively, I think I understand at least part of what you just said, and that's a huge paradigm shift, isn't it? That'll be a huge paradigm shift for people, because, I mean, I thought I was taught that the Earth spinning created the gravity that held us all in place, so to speak. And I absolutely get what you're saying, that it's the universe that's spinning us, but my gosh, that changes everything, in a sense.
Well, Vince, look at it. Does. It really does. It's like we used to think that the Earth was the center of everything and everything spun around the Earth in the old days. And then Copernicus said, "Oh, no. We orbit around something else and something else, and we're not the center of the universe." This is another one of those kind of aha moments. And there's going to be a mathematics to go with this eventually.
Mm-hmm.
If we hold together that long here in mankind.
Right.
But this idea of things spinning to form us creates a number of questions. Number one, if we were spinning to create a gravitational field of Earth, why does the moon orbit almost, in an equatorial type relationship? If Saturn's gravity is uniform all over the planet from the North Pole to its South Pole, why do the rings orbit at the equator of its spin? Why do its moons orbit in the equatorial plane? Why do all the planets orbit our sun basically in a kind of equatorial plane called the ecliptic plane?
Mm-hmm.
Why don't they orbit over the top if gravity is equal? Do you see what I'm saying?
Yes, I do.
Gravity and spin of something, this invisible fluid of space, create the gravitational fields and the orbits and all this kind of stuff, the arms of galaxies. I wish I had time or had the opportunity to talk to some of the leading physicists of our time and explain some of the mysteries they're running into that I've already addressed, seeing it when I operate from the outside, moving into the center of planets or galaxies or whatever. I mean, Stephen Hawking, he whiz. He's right on the doorstep of understanding this, but hasn't quite done so. He had a problem, which I won't explain here, but anyway, it's a problem with the core of galaxies being black holes and how they behaved. And physics, cosmological physics, is in an uproar over this, still trying to figure out whether he's right or they're right. And both of them are knocking at the door and not seeing it because they're not letting space do the work. The spinning motion of space.
I get it. I truly do. Wow. Something.
You can get a glass of water and do this. Sorry.
No, this is great stuff, man. I don't want to stop you on a roll.
All right.
I want to talk for a few seconds about. Or do you have to get a glass of water? Did you say?
No, I was going to tell you about spinning a glass of water, stirring it, and watching the reaction down at the bottom.
So with my lousy hearing, I said, "Do you want to get a glass?" I heard you to say, "I've been talking on here, Vince. Do you want to get a glass of water and take a quick break?" No, I get it. Okay, go ahead. Explain the spinning glass of water. I'm sorry, Stan. My lousy ears. Go ahead.
No, it's not you. It's the delay, I think, in the sound. You're coming in kind of broken up, and so it's probably getting back to you the same way. Anyway, all I was going to say is that, if you put some iron filings and sand or stuff, in a glass of water and then stir the glass really strong and get your spoon out of the way, you'll see that the fluid, the water, which is clear, and you can't really see it, but it's organizing the sand and the iron at the bottom in a little cone-shaped thing. The iron first, then the sand, because it's lighter. And there's a vortex at the top going kind of up and down as it slows down and finally stops. But that is the organizing gravitational field, this containment field that organizes the mass that's really heavy gravity, heavy magnetics, whatever. That's the particles in the bottom of the glass. So you can think of the particles down there as a planet or a star, and the spinning water is that what organizes, is the field that organizes them.
I get it. Wow. This is fun stuff, man. Talk to me about the Earth, and I know that you have been strong on this for quite some time, that the Earth is expanding. And I saw some pictures recently, and I can't remember if Hawley put them up on your website or I found them somewhere else, where divers were going into some of these rifts in the ocean where the plates are literally pulling apart, and they're able to go down several hundred feet into these rifts. But
yeah, Hawley did have it up on the site. Yes.
Okay, now you and I have discussed the hollow Earth theory before, and we've kicked around the whole thing as far as Nephilim being contained in some sort of beneath the surface type of containment. But if you're right, and I believe you are, that the Earth is expanding, I wonder if this all plays into that, where at some point the Earth expands to the place where that subterranean cell all of a sudden goes pop and opens up. Or am I nuts?
Yes. Oh, no, I agree. There are a couple ways it can happen. A planet can cool down, or like a moon, more likely because it's smaller, can be molten inside and can be expanding, because our moon did that. Neil Adams has thoroughly shown that on his website, taking the surface of the moon, images of it, and shrinking it back to where pieces fit together when it was smaller. Now, the moon expanded. It's smaller in diameter than the Earth, and so it cooled quicker. As it expanded and its core cooled, it sealed itself shut, leaving some small traces at the north and south pole of its spin, of indentations where the gravitational field or that organizing field went inside the moon. But in cases like big planets like Mars and Earth and the gaseous giants, when things start to unravel like that, they either become rings, like around Saturn, Jupiter, Neptune, and Uranus, or they become little orbiting rocks out there, or they become debris, like is occupying the asteroid belt.
Mm-hmm.
So if you get to the website and you click on something there called the archives, it's about just underneath the 4 or 5 programs that we've got listed up on the site today. And you'll see the archives, and you go to the archives, listen archives, and you'll go down to, about midway, there's something that says show images. And if you get onto that site, or that page we've got there that Holly's put up, it shows you an animation made from real photographs from Mars that Neil Adams did, and he did it of the Earth, he did it of Mars, shows how they were definitely smaller in diameter. And as they expanded, the coastlines of the parts where they tore.
Legendary Turtle King Ferdinand.
Sorry, Stan, say again?
Hello?
Yep, we're here. Go ahead.
What was that?
I don't know, something.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay. Now, so in our case here, I think what is happening with the Earth is that we're about to undergo a change where the surface of the Earth as we know it is going to kind of open up just a wee bit at the North and South Pole, and as it starts to try to take the whole surface of the Earth and move it out as an orbital ring of debris, like Saturn or Jupiter, well, Saturn and Uranus more than anything. The reason I say this is because the North and South Pole are both heating up, and they don't have an explanation for this. The scientists don't really know why. And the Russian drilling down the South Pole at the Vostok Lake, they've encountered warm water down underneath all the ice at the southern pole. There is a mystery to them. The ice melting in the North Pole and flowing and melting away, another mystery. I think what we're seeing is a thinning at the polar openings, or the polar caps, however you want to call it, where heat energy from our hot core is leaking out.
Wow.
I mean, you could just, if you look at these animations that Neil's done, and I don't want to take away from his work, but I've got links there that you can just click on his website and watch video after video. There's probably 10 of them there, that how he's pieced everything back together and then expanded it. And he is so right, and it's so easy to understand because it's not equations or formulas or long papers to read. You just see it right in front of you. We're there again. And these large earthquakes that we're seeing, and the number of them, especially on the plate boundaries, do tell me that we're in the beginning of a change like that. Now, whether it's going to be a third of the diameter of the Earth increase or not, I don't know. But I do know that we're undergoing some changes that are going to be reminiscent of what the Egyptians and the Mayans and, even before that, in the times of the Sumerian legends, where the Earth, the poles flip. I mean, it's just the sun rises and sets in the opposite direction it did now. The planets seem to turn upside down. These things have happened before in ancient recorded Earth history. And there's no reason why they can't occur again, and might be occurring again right now. We're just finding snippets of information and data that from tests we're doing and having people do overseas, and from reports we're getting from just gardeners in Asia saying that the shadows are in the wrong place, and people saying they've never seen the moon like this at this angle. Well, a lot of that might just be hearsay, and a lot of it might just be uninformed looks at the sky, but there's something wrong. We can see it in the behavior of the marine animals, the birds in the air, and with the earthquakes, with the tsunamis, with the flooding, the weather changes. All these things indicate a time of great change.
Wow. I got nothing. I can't top that.
You remember? Did you ever read Velikovsky's book, Worlds in Collision?
Yes.
Okay. Well, in his book, there are over 60 references that I have here. I haven't put them up on the site or anything. A fellow sent it to me today, but there are over 60 extracts in there dealing with ancient records, from Babylon, from Arab writings, from Claudius, Ptolemy, all these people, talking about huge events in the heavens that made havoc here on the Earth, in the climate, in the sunlight, in the, everything. And I couldn't encourage people more that are interested in this to get back to that book, Worlds in Collision, and just start marking these things out, where the ancients were trying to tell us, look, this happened to us, look out, it's coming your way eventually.
Well, something you and I spoke about the last time you were with us was the sun coming up 2 days early in Greenland, and how people just dismiss that. And I think that falls in line with a lot of the other things that you've just mentioned, as far as strange shadows, moon looking different, what have you. And people, again, it's like the scientific community just is closing their eyes to all of this.
Vince, you were breaking up pretty bad there. I think you were saying, was it, why didn't the scientific community listen to all this kind of stuff or investigate? Is that what you said?
And the Greenland sun rising 2 days early.
Yes. Well, I suspect that if anyone in an official position in astronomy for the government or in USGS were to positively identify anomalies like this, that they would be gagged from making it public unless administration here in this country anyway said, okay, you can tell people that. And it may be a global agreement between the superpowers to not stir up the people. I mean, it may be the 2012 scenario of the movie where no one was told because they wanted to get the survival shelters ready for the people that they were going to put in them to rebuild Earth after the catastrophe. But they couldn't afford to let anarchy set in while they were trying to get these things built and stocked. That might be the reason. I mean, I can't get people to respond that are in these observatories, and it's not purely like they're looking down their nose at you as an idiot. They just don't respond.
Wow.
Probably the safe way.
Stan, as always, this has been a joy. And we're hearing you clearly, but it seems there's something wrong with my connection to you. So we're at the top of the hour. I'll fire you an email tomorrow, and we look forward to having you back soon. Please give our best to Holly, and thank you for doing this tonight.
Thank you, Ben.
All right, brother. Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.
Well, folks, thank you very much for joining us. We're still on the air and will be for another couple of hours. I know a lot of you wanted to join and hear what Stan had to say, and I think you could hear him quite clearly. I could. But for some reason, our end of things didn't hold up to the bargain. I'm not sure why. But thank you very much for those of you who did join us. Know that we're here every night. If you're a Christian, I pray that you will come back and join us and maybe become part of the family. Going to take a break here. When we come back, lots more to talk about tonight. This is Crossing the World. Thank you very much for being with us. And man, did you just get your mind blown or what? It is the top of the hour.
Hi, I'm Rebecca St. James. In my recent film, Sarah's Choice, you see how abortion is an issue that touches us all.